Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There it is, so you don't miss any of our football content this season. It has been, if I might say, fantastic. Okay, I want to talk about this game third. You're a former scout of the Eagles. 28-3 win over the New York Giants. Eagles 28, Giants 3. There was a couple of things. First of all, it's going to be a bad day in the Giants facility. Bad day in the Giants facility. So Daniel Jones got benched at the start of the fourth. Andrew Thomas is out, which just, I should have bet this game. J-Mac he tried to talk me into it. You take Andrew Thomas out, this team can't move the ball. But they benched Daniel Jones at the start of the fourth. Jalen Hurts was bad on third down, but Saquon Barkley jammed it right down the Giants' throat. And John, it's one thing if somebody comes back, a Johnny Damon comes back to haunt you, if you're a Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
This was like the most predictable facial in the league. And I looked at that and I thought, it's going to be a bad day. Like, it's over for Daniel Jones. Like today, when they benched him start of the fourth, that was just like, it was kind of like they waved the white flag on Daniel Jones and probably the season.
I know you talk to a lot of people in the NFL. I can't tell you how many people their jaw hit the floor when the videos that came out of that Hard Knocks and the things they allowed. And obviously it has to go through the GM and the head coach, but I would imagine the owner, like if the owner did not want him saying, I don't know if I can sleep if he's on the Eagles, it wouldn't have come out. That felt, some of those things that came out in that Hard Knocks made me feel like the owner wanted it out. And if by the time people are listening to this, Joe Shane is fired, I just don't see. Remember when he was asked, and he's like, yeah, I don't think the Eagles, I think he's going to go to the Bears. And listen, I understand overpaying running backs and it's difficult, but when he went to Philly, I thought the moment when I watched that in the offseason, how is he going to have a bad year? They draft multiple offensive linemen every year. They have arguably the best offensive line coach, who Jason Kelsey calls like his father in Jeff Stoutland. And he's rushing for 100+ yards in all these games pretty easily. And when they're semi-healthy at wide receiver, like things are going to open up for him. Today, when it was like, I think he had like 6 or 7 carries for almost 20 yards. And they announced it. I'm like, I bet he's going to bust one soon. And then he bust that 50-yard run, and it was on. And it wasn't just Daniel Jones getting benched with 10 minutes to go. They also pulled Jalen Hurts for Kenny Pickett. So it's like you're benching your quarterback, and they waved the white flag, and Saquon Barkley's unbuckling his pads with like 7 or 8 minutes after he already has 100. He had 175 yards in 3 quarters, Colin. And I just think that, and listen, I understand they have injuries, and like you said, without Andrew Thomas, the Eagles, who have struggled to get a pass rush, they were in the backfield on Daniel Jones every single play. They had guys coming from every angle. He had no shot. That one, the owner said it. I don't know if I could sleep. He's our most popular player. He's our best player. And now that's a team that's loaded with talent. And what's Saquon? Second or third best player on their team. On given games, he's their best player. To do that to you at home, to just embarrass you, what is the papers? I guess it's more the internet now, how people consume the local talk shows there, the local television. What are they going to say tomorrow? How does Joe Shane... Brian Daboll, I actually think, has done a pretty good job now that he's transitioned to the offensive coordinator. Like, guys, his quarterback is atrocious. I mean, that guy is he can't play. And I would imagine Drew Lock will just be the quarterback and just see if they can give him a spark. That's a tough one for the GM.
Yeah, Colin. It's a cautionary tale. If you make a mistake, I see this a lot in a lot of businesses. Don't get arrogant. Don't get stubborn. Don't double down. They should never have drafted Daniel Jones 6th. Gettleman's a goofball. And then, I've been through a lot of these drafts, Dave. He's not the 6th best player in college football. He's probably not the 56th best player in college football. And then they doubled down on it. I mean, I like Daboll. I think they have their left tackle. I like Malik Neighbors, Dexter Lawrence, Thibodeau. There's some players here, but it doesn't matter. Listen, people are getting bigger and stronger. You watch the Chiefs and the Niners today. They're like 8 players left the game. People get hurt. You have to have a difference maker at quarterback that can overcome these injuries. And Daniel Jones is a classic example. He needs everything right. The minute you take Andrew Thomas left tackle out, it's over. it's just over. He can't do it. And again, listen, I watched Mahomes get blown out in the Super Bowl without his left tackle. But I think the Giants just have to start over. I think they have some nice defensive pieces. I think they have to start over. And I think you just have to go. I mean, Daniel Jones, I don't think he has a market. Maybe a 6th-round pick, a 5th-round pick. Does he have a market? It's time for this week's player I thought might give almost anything to redo his game. Brought to you by Uber Eats. Kirk Cousins, Falcons quarterback who I love. 2 interceptions, a fumble today, and the Falcons lost to Seattle. The last 3 possessions for Cousins all resulted in a turnover, including a fumble that led to a 65-yard scoop and score. That was this week's Uber Eats Player of the Week. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now.
Oh no, with how much money he makes, I think he's an untradeable player. I think when you look a couple years ago, remember when A.J. Brown was traded to the Eagles, and the Eagles played him like in the middle of the season, and A.J. Brown went nuts. And John Robinson, who I've known since I was at Fresno State, I think he's pretty good, got fired the next day. When A.J. Brown destroyed the Titans. Yeah. That's kind of what this feels like with Saquon Barkley. A high character, great guy. Every dad buying their kid a jersey feels great about it. And he's just an elite player. I mean, you watch him on that Eagles team, he's going to be a big reason that they're not the most cohesive operation right now with their head coach. And that guy, I mean, they're going to end up winning the problem for the Giants is you remove a couple years ago when they made the playoffs at 9-8. So it's not like they made the playoffs with 11 or 12 wins. I mean, they won 9 games. It was one of the great coaching jobs ever. They have been awful since they fired Tom Coughlin. I mean, and even those last couple of years of Tom, they were bad. They have been really bad for a long time now. And you got Washington, who I know they played Carolina today, but that team's going to win 10 games as long as Jaden Daniels.
The Giants are a 4th-place team for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. And I do wonder, this quarterback draft, you saw Ewers and Carson Beck. So if you don't have the number 1 pick, it's not really like you feel great about some of these quarterbacks.
I asked
a lot of Daniel Jones in this group.
I asked an executive. I don't want to give this away. I asked an executive with Super Bowl experience about, and he's in the next few years in the quarterback market. He said, this is the year to trade down. He goes, this is not a good quarterback market. He agreed with me. He thinks Shedeur Sanders has an it quality. I think after watching
I think he's going to be the number 1 pick. I think Shedeur's going to be the number 1 pick if the draft was.
I had a friend of mine went and watched the Arizona. His son plays for Arizona. Went and watched the Wildcats, Colorado, and he was a quarterback. He was a college quarterback, my friend. And I asked him what he thought, and he said, he goes, I've heard what you've said about him. He said, I think Shedeur. He goes, Arizona's played a lot of quarterbacks and a lot of teams. He said Shedeur's easily the best quarterback. He said he made a couple of tiny window throws, moving. He's like, that's a 1st-round quarterback. He said, and Arizona's got a good quarterback. And he goes, you can look at all these quarterbacks, but he goes, Shedeur Sanders is a 1st-round quarterback when you're watching live. And my buddy's, he was a college quarterback. He knows his shit. He knows football. He goes to every Arizona game. He's like, yeah, this guy's a 1st-round pick. So, but I was talking to an executive this week, and he said, this is the year to be bad and trade down. He said, this is not a good group. He said, the quarterbacks are at big programs, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame. He said, they're not 1st-round quarterbacks. So,
yeah, that's why I don't know if this is breaking news, but I think the Patriots are going to be in good position if they just keep playing like they're playing and you just trade back and accumulate some picks and try to build around Drake May because they're pretty terrible.